reason anyone on the main platform shouldn't be. And we're live! Whoopee. I'm on the internet, people.
Woo!
And Shipyard is here as well.
Hello. One has been eagerly awaiting your return.
Oh,
Yeah, I kind of got bored.
I see. Well, I suppose we should get started.
Yeah, I suppose we should.
5 people in the audience. Well, I suppose it's better than the alternative, which is none.
Well, that is true. Any audience is good audience. That's what I say when I live stream.
Yes. Yes, it is. Now then, what did I do with my bananas? I did something with them. And I wish I knew what. Well, has anyone got any questions?
Have you seen the new float plane added to War Thunder?
There's a new float plane added to War Thunder.
I mean, I've seen a few things to do with War Thunder recently. Yeah, it's along the lines of the Apache and the F-117. It's the last thing I've seen from War Thunder.
Ah, dear. Good stuff.
Really seems quite quiet, doesn't it?
It really is today. Probably because I had to shunt it a day forwards.
Quite possibly, yes.
It's alright.
But does this now mean that we can have interesting chats about stuff?
No, because I'm live on YouTube.
Oh yes, of course. YouTube's so boring.
Well, I'm trying to supplement my income.
Yeah, that's why I'm doing it for.
And also because I enjoy it.
Come on. Yeah.
I want some music on in the background, but the problem is it'll come up on the stream, and I need to make sure that that doesn't happen.
That's the only issue about YouTube, is you just get basically hit on. Hold on, sorry. Hit on is probably the worst word for it. You get absolutely screwed over by copyright. It's not fun.
Indeed.
I've had to ditch like 4 streams just because I've played some sort of songs that YouTube has deemed that is very much not copyright. Meh.
It seems like it, yeah.
So, Fleet.
So.
That's a good question. Is it possible to make a float plane out of a P-51 Mustang?
Yes.
And yeet it from a ship?
Yes, it's very possible. You just do what the Japanese did to the A6M. The design process isn't complicated. You can turn pretty much any fighter into a float plane, if you really want to. And you can strengthen it so that it can survive catapult launches. It's a fairly straightforward process, actually.
Thanks.
At least that's the way it should work.
Oh.
It's going to be an extremely interesting set of circumstances. I'm really not feeling my creative juices. Oh wow, there's conversation happening in the guys. We have theatre at sea text chat. I tend not to read the integrated text chat. Oh right, shipyard one for you. What's the difference between integrated and an armored cruiser?
Oh, sorry, what? An integrated or an armored cruiser?
Sorry, protected or armored. Whoopsie.
Right, okay. No, I was about to say, what the hell's an integrated cruiser? Right, okay. Armored and protected. Best way to describe it is an armored cruiser has an armored belt. A protected cruiser has not an armored belt.
Indeed.
So essentially, the way you look at a armored cruiser is as your deck armor, which covers over the machinery, angled deck on the sides, so that angles down, and then you have your belt armor on the sides. The protected cruiser has everything with that bar the sides. So all it has is an angled deck, an armored angled deck. It's very similar to a turtleback system. The best way to describe it. Just a lot thinner than what the Germans would use.
Basically.
Yeah.
That's the whole premise of it.
Pretty much. And if I can. I guess your peeps on YouTube won't see this, but that is basically a armored cruiser design cross section.
Indeed. Can we make a B-17 flying boat to Terra Pacific? It's possible. You could do it. But you'd be a little bit off kilter.
There's a question about an alternative scenario.
Oh boy. One of those.
Well, that's in the theatre at sea text chat.
Is it?
Yeah.
In an alternative scenario, the US isn't at odds with the USA, and Asia is somewhat less danger of going red alert. How long do you think the Allied occupation of Axis countries could have lasted? The occupation of Axis countries lasted realistically as long as it was going to. The Allies were not interested in occupying the countries. They were there so they could be rebuilt and readjusted. Rebuilt in the Allied case, readjusted in the Soviet case, into nations that would fit into the modern world. The Allies were not interested in occupation and annexation, not even the Soviet Union. The Soviets were interested in carving out a sphere for themselves, not direct annexation. And that's just the truth.
It's all well and good until it all comes crumbling down.
Indeed.
And we're not going political there, so don't worry. Never can I give you.
Now, provided nobody pokes anything, we should be fine.
Who's poking what?
What's your opinion on the concept of battle carriers? Battle carriers are a design that make no sense in the traditional era of steam and steel. And the concept of an armed carrier only really comes into question, it only really becomes viable in the missile age. That is to say, the Soviets did in fact hit a winner with the Kievs. Given what they wanted to build, the Kievs were not a bad idea. Carrier and Service Action Group Task Force leadership all rolled into one.
In my opinion, probably the best design going.
I disagree with you there.
Okay.
Can you launch an SM-6 from American nuclear carriers? I don't know. If you want my humble opinion, I have no bloody idea.
No. No, you can't.
I'm not what you'd call the most skilled gentleman when it comes to knowing these sort of things. I'm not even an expert on World War II or ironclad shipping. Never mind the modern era. The fact that the Red Fleet timeline even came together in a coherent fashion was largely as a result of the co-hosts I had to make the bloody thing. American pre-dreadnoughts are fine. They're absolutely fine. In fact, one of the only videos on the Red Fleet timeline that's still extant is actually on Shipyard's channel. It's a live stream for when he was making the frigate. Or was it a corvette? I can't quite remember.
Was it an Alvand class frigate?
I think so. Iranian vessel.
Good-looking ship. Yes,
But yes,
the
it's one of the only
class.
Yes, it's one of the only places you can actually find a video on the Red Fleet timeline.
Because I forgot to make him for April Fools.
Oh, yes, you did. I didn't. But that was after the whole incident that occurred. I didn't feel
Yes,
like...
well, we don't talk about that.
No, we don't. But I've changed now. I'm much more I've much more let other people speak rather than jumping in. I've been listening back to all of my ramblings and I've been adjusting my style accordingly to get rid of some of the things that I find annoying in my own delivery. The constant use of like and other words repeatedly is beginning to grate on me, and I'm the one bloody using them.
Well, I didn't want to tell you, but yes.
Yeah, but well, there's no stronger critic than yourself.
Exactly, hence why I don't ever watch any of my videos back.
I want to at this early stage just
because
to make
I
sure
would
that I
cringe.
For one thing, the topics that we talk about interest me, and my memory's so bad that I can't remember some of the things we do talk about. So I do always like to listen to them back.
Fair play.
And secondly, it's early days. I need to improve my delivery style.
It'll come with time. It'll come with time.
Oh, this is one you'll have to answer because I've got no bloody chance. If a new European war occurred, assuming the Ukrainian war spread, basically became a full Russo-NATO conflict, would the Royal Navy even have the infrastructure necessary to produce and maintain a group of aircraft carriers? Do you not see the Queen Elizabeths? Do you not see the 2 carriers we've built? That are
What is this question?
That are the largest non-US carriers in the world. No, it's not Red Storm Rising, because Red Storm Rising actually has a competent Russia. You know, back when they were the Soviets and could actually do combined arms operations. At which point do the size of aircraft facilities... Okay, so US Coast Guard ships escorting convoys in the Atlantic during World War II. They did it, and they were good at it, and it's a role they trained for pre-war.
What he said.
Xenonaut asks, at which point do the size of aircraft facilities on gun-armed warships become counterproductive, i.e. flight decks, etc.? Oh. It depends on what the warship is and what it's designed to do. If you want to know an answer to that question. Well, the essays were a botch job. Plain and simple. That's all you can really say about the essays. Grey Ghost asks, the battleships at Pearl Harbor that were salvaged replaced themselves one day before the attack with the crew they had at the attack, plus any extra needed with the skills needed to use the post-refitted systems. Nothing else changes. How might this change the attack's outcome of the attack? Uses the word attack 5 different times. Also, please stop calling me our Lord and Savior. You know I don't like it. Dear God, I don't think I could ever be that bloody pompous. At least not when I'm sober. Well, you've basically just sunk the entire Japanese fleet. Because you specifically specified that crewmen who are needed to operate the systems that the normal crew cannot are coming back with the ships. Which basically means that US submarines, aircraft, and carriers are all vectored to where the Kiributai is. Or at least, search patterns are conducted until they're found. And whilst normally, the mantra of Pearl Harbor goes, oh, well, you know, then if they know the Japanese are coming and they go out to fight them, it's going to be a bad day for the USN battle line of standards because they're going to get killed by the Kiributai. That's not what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with 6 of the standards having radar, modern fire control, radar-directed blind fire Bofors mounts, and VT Fuse 5-inch 38s. You're looking at ships that are going to decimate a 1941 era attack wave from Japanese carriers. And that's not even counting the cap they'll probably have from P-40s based at Pearl, flying over the fleet. Shipyard, any comments on that? Anything you'd like to add?
Um, I mean, the question didn't really state where the fleet's starting off.
No, they replaced at Pearl. So the ships that died but were recovered at Pearl Harbor are gone from the moorings, and in their place are their counterparts at the end of World War Two. In their fully
Right, that
refitted
makes total
form.
sense. Obviously, Arizona's still going to be gone.
Yeah, no, it's only the ones that were salvaged.
How many is that? Like 4, 5, 6?
Half the standards at least.
I mean, it'd be. It'd be an interesting fight to watch. Don't know if. I think the Americans will still take losses,
Oh yeah, I'm not denying that.
but be an interesting one to watch. That'll be my final answer on that one.
Caleb
Yeah,
says that Caleb says he meant a group of 12 to 20 British carriers, not the two you have now. America doesn't operate 12 to 20 carriers these days. No nation can. Not with the increase in size, performance, and cost of warships generally across the board.
Yeah, the Yanks operate 10 at the moment.
They have
At
surge
least,
capability
maybe
for
11.
yeah, they have surge capability for more, but that's surge capability. Ideally, we should have got 3 QEs. That'd give us 2 active with surge capability for 3.
You know that two of them will just be sat in Pompey somewhere. Well, one will be sat in Liverpool.
Well, that's
Probably will be
I mean,
stripped for parts.
I mean that's fair.
And I mean, 3 is a good idea, but it would cripple the economy.
Maybe, but maybe the economies of scale would kick in.
Anyway. Well, there's a possibility. I mean, we struggle to man 2 carriers at the moment.
That's more staffing requirements than it is funding.
It's a 50-50. Well, no, hang on. It's more like 25% for costs, 75% manning issues. But then again, half the matlows of the RN just are lazy gits and want to sit on their asses in Pompey and Plymouth, or don't want to go to sea. And
RAF sailors who don't want to go to sea.
yeah,
What is the Navy coming to?
you tell me.
Probably why you left.
I mean, no, there was another reason for that, but you know. But on the other side of that is the British public doesn't want to go serve in the military because they're just too busy sat at home playing on their PCs and laptops. Well, same thing.
I suppose you
And
have
PlayStations and God knows what else.
you have a point there. I mean,
Because it's too much of a hard piece of work to do.
there will be. I don't doubt that there'll be some form of like if someone hurts UK property. The British have this thing where we're not willing to fight and die when we're at peace, but you fuck with us and oh boy, we're fucking coming for you, mate.
Yeah, we do.
Like this is the thing: if a full-scale war does kick off in the east, if NATO does invoke Article 5, well, first off, I don't think there'll be any draft because the Russian army is at this point a broken mess. And if Ukraine can make gains using positional techniques with no close air support constantly available, and limited numbers of artillery shells, the NATO armies that exist in Europe right now can probably drive them out of Ukraine in a few sweeping offensive actions. We can retake Crimea by doing amphibious assault operations. We don't even need to raise conscription or do a draft at all. The Americans will, because it's what the Americans do whenever they're at war. They even did it for fucking Vietnam.
To be honest, there is one thing about that, though. And I've just lost it out of my flipping mind. Where the hell's that just gone? Oh, had a really good point. Oh, that's it. We almost had an Article 5 incident.
I know we did, but we didn't.
I know, because we decided not to do it.
To be fair, that was the right call. We don't want to escalate to a shooting war. We've got the Russians by the balls. We get to have all the benefits of destroying them without actually having to fight a shooting war. There's no risk of escalation to nuclear arms right now, because Russia won't use them and Ukraine doesn't have them. But if NATO gets involved, there's always that risk of escalation to nuclear arms.
Yeah, you have a point.
It might be a small tangential risk, but it's still there. And besides, we've got the Russians by the balls anyway. We're basically getting all the benefits of watching a modern conventional war take place with none of the costs.
To be fair, it's also a great place to test our modern-day weapon systems.
Indeed. And they're proving remarkably effective. The Russians are having to throw fucking cruise missiles at challengers to kill them.
Yeah, and we lob they lob our storm shadows at submarines and landing ships.
They managed to bag a fucking kilo. That's an impressive feat.
An improved kilo as well.
Oh, that's a loss to the Russian Black Sea Fleet.
Question: are we allowed to talk about this?
Yeah, we are. We're allowed to talk about it.
Great. Excellent. It's
just in the text chat. They've got to be careful.
So.
Oh no. Sorry. No. You're allowed to discuss the war in Ukraine on the server, but it's got to be technical. It's got to be a technical discussion. You're not allowed to bring it into politics, aside from the obvious, Russia bad, Ukraine good bit.
Oh, fair enough. Okay, so yeah, Rostov-on-Don is fucked. No, sorry, she's in MOD language. She is foobarred.
Fucked up beyond recognition.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, no. Sorry, foobarred is fucked up beyond all recognition.
Yes, that one. I reckon she is a.
She's a write-off.
She's an op def.
Yeah, she's a write-off.
I mean, looking at it, that one's gone through into compartment 2. Roughly.
She's taken 2 hits, obviously.
Yeah, you can see the bulkhead for the forward. Is that the sonar room there?
Possibly. If that's the case.
Possibly so. So if that's the bulkhead for the sonar, that's gone into the torpedo room. So
I would get rid of the image though, because that does show battle damage, and the admins are going to be a little picky. So I would just remove those images quickly now that we've seen them.
And the second one has gone after the operations room.
Hey, maybe I can get him on ramblings.
What, Mr. Pelt?
Maybe. I mean, he's done collabs with fucking Squire, so he clearly has a sense of humour and a willingness to branch out from his traditional. Heck, Squire somehow got the Tank Museum to collab with him, and how? That man has fucking connections everywhere.
Yeah, he does. Although it is quite good how that little speech he does in Hunt for Red October very much fits well for today.
Oh?
You lost another sub, Andre. I don't know what that accent was, but
Yeah.
I mean, how many have they lost since World War II that's not Well, I'd say Rostov-on-Don is
She's the
technically
no.
not a combat
She
loss.
is. It's a combat loss. She was struck with a weapon that was aimed at her, designed to kill. That was aimed at her with the intention to destroy her. That's a combat loss.
Okay, let me rephrase it. In a direct one-on-one.
I know. Okay, she wasn't sunk by the bloody ghost of HMS Sheffield.
So you've got. Hang on. So that is Rostov, Kursk, K129.
Dave from down the road.
Dave from down the road. I don't think Dave is. All right, never mind. So you got S117, M200, M256, K19, technically, S80, B37,
Red October.
the
No, I'm just kidding.
K3. I'll get to that in a minute. The K3 Lenensky Cosmocol, whatever it's called. That one. I said K129. K127, K8, K56, K120, K178. Jesus Christ, too many words. K429, K131, K219, K278. Cosmolets.
And Dave.
And Dave. And then after the fall of the Soviet Union,
Kursk.
K159, which I don't remember that even happening. What was? Oh, she's a kit class, whatever the hell that is, and obviously B237, aka Rostov-on-Don. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 submarines they have lost.
Wow. That's aggressively sad.
Yeah. Oh, so a kit is a nuclear-powered version of a November. That's scary. How many subs did the US lost?
The November is a nuclear-powered submarine.
Is it?
Yes!
What?
It was their first nuke boat. How do you not know this? It was a fast bugger, but it was noisy as all fuck. Really loud reactor pumps.
Oh, for fuck's sake. It's been a long day.
Greg
Yeah,
goes,
please,
I already answered that question about the Charnels with 12-inch Russian 50s. Or sorry, 12-inch Russian 51s. They're the Scharnhorsts. The change is not that great. It's 12-inch 51s from World War One replacing 11-inch 55s from World War Two. It's about the same bang for your buck, basically.
To be fair, the Yanks are doing quite good. They only lost 4 submarines since the start of World War II.
I thought... Red Storm Rising, but in this time when the US won or claimed victory in Vietnam. Vietnam is united under Avian rule in 1971, and also afterwards someone conducts a false flag operation on US-controlled oil fields in the Middle East, and especially Iran, painting the KGB and Soviet government as the perpetrators. So Red Storm Rising, but in the early 70s. Well, problem is, it's NATO's not Russia. NATO's not going to strike first. That's not the way NATO works. It's also worth pointing out the whole point Red Storm Rising happens is that the Russians lose a massive oil factory to Islamist militants. It cuts their oil production by a third across the board on all oils that they need to run their country, and the choice is either, well, we can either perform an economic miracle and either succeed at that or fail at that, and therefore get removed by revolution, or we can do the less dangerous thing to our political careers and start a war. That's the whole thing of Red Storm Rising. The world spirals into World War III because some Islamist militants blow up a massive oil refinery. What would be an efficient number of spotting aircraft to conduct long-range recon for the Bismarck to have known the British were coming for her and her crew? Well, they knew the British were coming. That wasn't the problem. The problem was in shaking off her pursuers. She knew her pursuers were there. And she doesn't. The problem is to launch recon aircraft. Yeah, Bismarck can launch the recon aircraft while she's at speed. To recover them, she'll have to slow down and stop. She can't afford to do that. She carries about 4 to 5 Arado 196s, but she can't use them. Not when she's running from the British. The one thing Bismarck's got is her speed. Not so much in terms of top speed, but in terms of her high transit speed. She needs to use that to get away.
So the answer to that question is 1. No, 0.
Why not build LHDs like the America class for the RN? Well, because we're transitioning away from a shipyard. What's the word? We sold off Ocean, didn't we? Our large LHD type vessel.
Yes, it was an LHA.
Yeah, the Royal Navy is basically transitioning into a far more. We're trying to shift back towards a that's the point with the new destroyers and new frigates. Is the RN wants to have a large navy again. They want to shift from less numerous, more capable platforms into slightly less capable but more numerous platforms. Basically, bulk out the Royal Navy.
Hope to God it bloody works.
Grey Ghost. Grey Ghost. Create a pre-dreadnought style coastal defense battleship with British 30.5-inch guns and 2 triple turrets in 1935. Well, first off, that's just a coastal defense ship, not a pre-dreadnought. Completely different kettle of fish. Secondly, 2 triples. I'm gonna have to alter that. You can do it like that, but I'd much rather have 3 twins on the center line. That gives a redundancy of turret number, and also means that we can have much better fall of shot. It also removes the complicated mess that can be triple turrets. Speed, about 21 knots, that'd be fine. Secondary battery will have some 4-inch guns in twin mounts, probably open shielded to save weight. Anti-aircraft guns, we'll put a. I assume this is being built for Britain, so we'll have a set of pom poms and some 20mm cannon. And there you are. You've now created a ship that can deal with anything that is basically not a battleship, because if a cruiser runs into it, its only choice is to run away because the ship will kill it. If it's a battleship, it's dead. You were saying, Shipyard?
I was just going to say that the only issue we would have, if you're going to try and, if they're trying to bulk out the Navy, the issue is manning. Because like I said earlier on, no civvies is going to want to go to sea, because 1, there isn't any signal, 2, you can't play on your PlayStation, 3, you can't talk to your girlfriend, or boyfriend, or
titty pick
partner. Just to appease everyone else. You just get shouted at. No one's going to sign up for that. Plus, who wants to do a freshwater washdown of an upper deck of a warship? Pretty crap job.
Very much true.
Or to de-rust a stupid pipe.
Yeah, basically.
I mean, that's why I wanted to work in the ops room. Didn't have to do any of that stuff. Why I look like Casper the Ghost.
You're funny.
But that's not a topic for today. But the Navy really needs to see where your strengths and weaknesses lie, and my weaknesses were, chipping and painting.
I think I see what you mean.
Yes, it's too busy making recognition shits. That was my good job. Loved it.
I see.
Yes. Oh well, never mind.
So where were we?
Somewhere.
Question is, for a war in Europe, how much use would NATO CVs on the NATO side realistically be? Besides given the extra planes, given the relative abundance of airfields. Oh, basically they enable us to raid any part of the Russian coast, especially in the north we wish. Shoot down Russian backfire raids into the Atlantic, which would probably still be happening, despite the fact that their backfire fleet is having a little bit of problems right now. But I'm sure they'd still try, at least. Their Bear fleet is the one thing that's actually running well. So you definitely have Tu-142s, the naval patrol equivalent of the Bear, out over the North Atlantic, pretty much from day one of any conflict with Russia. They'd also be used to close up the Pacific part of Russia. Basically, they just ensure dominance of the seas and the skies. In Red Storm Rising, when the Russian fleet was at its strongest, they basically the loss of them basically enables the Russians' freedom of action in the North Sea. In the modern timeline, given what we know of the Russian capabilities now, the NATO navies basically have won dominance of the ocean before the shots even fired. The only threats that the Russian Navy realistically has are the most up-to-date refits of their older cruisers, that being the Kirovs and the Slavas, their most modern surface combatants, and the Akula submarine fleet, along with whatever Sierras are still running. I don't put any stock in what the Alphas are running at this point. As far as I'm concerned, the Alphas are pretty much on their last legs / going out of service. So at least we won't have to deal with those ghosts anymore.
Fleet, did you die?
No, I'm still here.
Okay, that's fine. You just randomly cut off in the middle of a sentence.
Well, no, I didn't. I said we don't have to deal with those ghosts anymore. That's it. I'm done. I've finished my sentence.
Oh, fair enough.
Unless you know something about the Russian Navy, I don't. As far as I'm aware, they're an empty. Well, they're not an empty threat, but it's nowhere near the problem. They can't do nearly the attack profiles or problems that NATO navies would have faced in the 1980s.
So there is obviously the Yesen threat, or Yesen, however you want to say it. They are very quiet when they come off the slipways. They are much more quiet in comparison over the length of time they've been in service to the Akulas. So they're still very hard to track. So yeah, I wouldn't. Their submarine threat is quite substantial at the moment. Still, that's the only thing I can think of that really gives Russia a step up or a leg up. I mean, Petoveleki is obviously the most modern, quote unquote, Kirov. But as soon as the Admiral Nakimov comes into service after her Donkey's Year refit, yeah, she's going to become even more powerful, and they're going to get rid of the Petoveleki, apparently.
Although I bet you I bet you any money getting rid of instead means we're going to bring her in for refit / rebuild again.
No. She's apparently slated for the scrapyard.
They're going to scrap one of the most potent surface combatants.
Yep.
At a time when they're posturing with NATO.
Yep.
At the time they're fighting a full-scale conventional war which could involve all of us if the Russians screw up.
Yep.
And they want to get rid of one of their most powerful surface combatants.
Yep.
rather than keeping both of them in service until Piotr Veliky's well and truly worn out.
Yep.
I, I, I. Mm, even the fucking UK MOD doesn't make that fucking stupid decisions.
Um. Yeah, they do.
Oh yeah, sorry, they do. You're right. I'd forgotten.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten about that.
Hmm. The entirety of the 2010s are a black stain of the Royal Navy. However, don't forget their kilos.
There's nothing wrong with the kilos, but what I will say is that I find myself, what's the word? Um, Disingenuously, unconcerned. They are very quiet boats, but even the improved kilos
Mm,
are not the same threats they were when they first entered service. Western sonar has
let
caught up. They're still a
let
threat. They're
me
still a threat,
let,
but they're not.
let me in a, let me let you in into a little secret. Does that make sense? Yeah. The kilos are not quiet.
What?
They are not quiet at all.
I thought they were supposed
It's
to be
brilliant.
quiet.
You listen to Russian propaganda.
I didn't. It's the things that was. It's one of the things that was known as well, not as a fact, but definitely as something that.
Yeah, they're very crap. They're very quiet. No, sorry, they're not very quiet. Contradiction there. they're just they're just meh. Best way to describe it. They're just meh.
Oh, so no, we don't have anything. We don't have anything to be worried about at all then.
I'm pretty sure an Oberon class would be quieter.
An O boat.
An O boat probably quieter than a Kilo.
Wow. For real.
I, from what I've been told by a bunch of Taz apes, yes.
And we don't even have any O boats anymore.
Exactly.
Heck, we got rid of the last of our conventional submarines,
Yeah.
which I do think.
The Vic-
I'm.
the Vickies are probably better.
I'm not actually. What's the word? I'm not actually concerned or think it was a bad move to actually get rid of our conventional submarines. I think moving over to a full nuke boat fleet simplified logistics and, quite frankly, made sense.
Mm.
Without it, I don't think we would have got the Astutes at all. At least not in the very capable form they emerged in.
Yeah.
Because let's not forget that the Astutes could have been one of these failures of what's the word? One of these failures of procurement. Just another name to add to a list of failed projects for our own procurement, but they didn't. They weren't. Instead, we got one of the finest attack submarines in the world. Something equal to, I'd argue, a Virginia. Arguably the British equivalent to a Virginia.
The only issue is, though, is it's built by BAE Systems.
Yes.
And BAE Systems are not well known for their... What's the word? I'm trying to think of the best word for this. Working when delivered.
No, you do have a point there. That's very true.
Hmm.
But I would also point out that how would I best describe it? Um,
It's a very delicate subject.
they've had their usual running in period that's required for BEA products. We've been through that rough cycle. We've done it.
Mm-hmm.
So now we've actually got the mature product, as opposed to the
Mm-hmm.
You're not encouraging me there, are you?
Mm-hmm.
All right. What do you
Just gonna leave it
know?
there.
What do you know? Come on, lay it on me.
Not great stuff, to be perfectly honest.
Oh, that bad?
Hmm.
Oh, that bad?
From what I've read, and from what I can read between the lines, the submarine force isn't doing too well.
That's not what I want to hear.
No, it isn't. Or I could just be saying this because, if we down, well, downplay our forces, we'll be better in a war.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. We've done it before.
Exactly.
Wouldn't be the first time we pulled the wool over Ivan's eyes.
It's true. Because strong British engineering. Yeah. No, I'm just gonna shut up now. Because me and you both know that's not true.
Yeah.
Oh.
A warship is launched and named USS Samurai in 1941. How much does it piss off the Japanese military command? It's harder to make the Japanese military command echelons more angry with everything and everyone than they already were.
Probably pissed the Americans more than the Japanese. So if you think about it, if the name of the ship Samurai, the Japs come and bomb, anti-Japanese sentiment comes and becomes much more higher, and the American public will, come and be like, yeah, we need to rename this ship because F the Japs. And then he gets changed, and yeah. That's probably a better way of putting it.
Yeah, what I will say is... Yeah, that's basically, yeah, pretty much. What if the Kalamazoo monitor was built during the Civil War? The US gets a large, very capable ocean-going monitor. I don't know what else to tell you, Chief. I mean, it's a very simple question that has a very simple answer. Grey Ghost, give Ukraine 50 LSTs or the modern equivalent. How much of Crimea can they take back? None. You just give them 50 LSTs, all that's not gonna help them much. Even if they can run them and find the crews to run them, the Russians do still have a Black Sea fleet, and one of Russia's great strengths that they haven't lost during this entire war is their shore-based anti-ship missile batteries. The Russians
and there's one literally in the middle, in the entrance to Sevastopol. So
the Russians are very, very fond of their anti-ship missiles. On land, in the air, or at sea. It's one of the things the Russians are very, very good at. And they've stayed very good at it even after the fall of the Soviet Union. Because it was a very cheap, effective way to defend their coastline.
Don't forget that Russia has also got built-in anti-shipping missile capabilities in retractable launchers, essentially like what the Turkish had for the Dardanelles. They are retractable. They can be hidden. They are pretty powerful. Yeah, granted they're sticks and they're from the 60s, but you'll definitely know 30 seconds in advance before they fire. But
it's not going to help you much when 25 of them appear. Russian missile salvos are very, very large things, or at least they were by doctrine.
Each missile battery, from what I can understand, is 4 sticks per launching. Well, from 4 sticks per battery.
Damn.
The question is how many batteries are located on Crimea?
They raided Grey Ghost. They raided Crimea. It was a shaping operation of the kind Ukraine will have to do many of. Russians are the stupid? No. No, they aren't. If the Russians were stupid, the Ukrainians would have won the war by now. You don't stay in the game as long as the Russians have, with terrible equipment, low motivation troops, and manpower problems. You don't do what the Russians have managed to do without having some people be exceedingly clever at their jobs. Let's get one thing straight here. The Russian failings are at the upper echelons of their command structure. Yes, the corruption and the don't tell that things have gone wrong problem, as explained by Perun in one of his videos on why the Russian army is the way it is prevalent throughout the entire force. But Russian officers have been getting better and better the longer the war's gone on, through the simple fact that the ones who live are getting better at using their men and the equipment they've got. Combat experience is a real thing, and the Russians and the Ukrainians both are getting it in spades. I mean, Shipyard, you'll agree with me here. Like, you don't stay in the game in the war like this as long as the Russians have, given their issues, without someone being very clever. Luck can only take you so far.
It is true, but at a point, well, the further they go into the war, the further they get better, but the better they get.
But they have less equipment
until
to do
key
it
players
with.
get taken out. Yeah, until they run out of equipment and key players get taken out, like officers who have had decent enough experience on what is going on. So you take that guy out. Oh well, here we go. We're gonna crumble.
And Priggy, of course, died.
Yeah. I'm sorry, comrade. Your husband's plane randomly crashed. I don't know why, but he's a good guy.
Why did the Aussies not pick the Astute instead of the Virginia? The Astutes aren't better. What the Astutes are is a European boat. They can operate in the Pacific, but they're very much designed for that classic attack boat role in the North Sea, Arctic Ocean, Norwegian Sea, and the Atlantic. The Virginia is a world-operating submarine. It's also far more flexible than the Astute is, plain and simple. The VLS tubes give massive flexibility to what targets can be served by the Virginia, and free up space for torpedoes in the front tubes, although they can also fire missiles from said tubes as well.
Some say they can also go into Murmansk Harbour. No? Okay.
I'm not saying anything. I thought you were going somewhere with that.
No, I was just, quoting the really, really, really bad movie by what's his face, Gerard Butler.
I'm not. I don't mind Down Periscope. It's a fairly funny film. Not quite accurate, but funny.
Hang on. Are we talking about Gerard Butler's movies here?
You know the one with the guy who somehow restores a Baleo class submarine to service and then takes it out for war games against a fucking Los Angeles class and wins? That film? That is what you're talking
I meant
about.
Hunter Killer.
Oh, that shit.
Gerard
What?
Butler.
Oh, that shit film. Oh, no.
That's what I was like, what? Oh,
Oh,
well, that's a
that.
good movie.
Oh, Hunter Killer, that piece of CGI garbage.
Yes, yes, that one. You know, where they randomly somehow go underneath in a cave in a Virginia. I'm gonna say Block 3,
And of course, they
possibly.
somehow get they somehow sit on the surface and launch and open their launch tubes and get saved by a
Good
Russian
lord.
destroyer that just happens to get every single missile fired with its Sea Whiz at odds of several thousand to one.
Yeah. I mean, none of those missiles are gonna hit. You can see that in the movie.
Yeah. U.S. museum ships. So if you have all U.S. machine ships fully armed and can steam in their prime, assuming in the last refit form, yeah, I'm sorry, but the fact that the museum navy can call upon several super carriers with 1980s to 2000 era aircraft, and the U.S. fleet includes several battleships armed with cruise missiles, it, they can actually stand a decent chance of engaging toe to toe with the Russian fleet, provided they move as a single force and stick together and support each other. I can't really decide um, what the interesting scenario. USA decides to for some reason execute Hirohito. How much of a shitstorm does that stir up? Would the US prop up Hirohito's son as the new emperor to at least keep things manageable, or would they completely get rid of the new emperor of the emperor system? No, the US. I don't know. That is a massively complicated. You'd need someone with a degree in Japanese sociology who specifically studies the Japanese social culture of the late 40s to have a chance of answering that question accurately. There are far too many variables, and I haven't the clue. Grey Ghost, I would refer you to um, the first timeline video on the Texas when it returns to the Civil War, um, which is on YouTube, for an answer to that question. Dan Periscope isn't bad. Dan Periscope is glorious. It's funny. Like the Virgin Hunter Killer versus the Chad down Periscope. Also, just the idea of down Periscope is funny. Taking a Baleo class against modern US fleet units? That's funny. And the film crew um, also paid for the restoration of the Scorpion, the sub they used to actually, because she was in the crap state that they found her in when they did the first shot of when he goes to see the sub and he's like, "Fuck, that's not my fucking boat." Um, they paid for it to be done up, spiffed up, restored. Is the test done in down? Thank you. The Pampanino. Is the test done plausible? It's certainly a. It's well, the way in which they did it isn't like restoring an old World War II era submarine. Isn't a plausible way to do the test. The idea is sound though. They probably have gone to the Brits and asked for one of their last O-boats
Huh?
or something similar. Probably use one of the upholders to replicate something like a Hilo or something like that, and have that basically attempt to penetrate. I mean, hey, a British diesel submariner would absolutely love that. He would absolutely have a field day trying to penetrate U.S. harbors. Like, I mean, can you imagine what Royal Navy captain would refuse that honor? Be like, you want me to? Let me get this straight. You want me to attempt to evade the entire U.S. Navy, penetrate U.S. harbors, and embarrass the U.S.'s ASW Corps? Fuck yes, I'm in. If you really want to embarrass them, ask the Swedes to show up. Pentagon Wars. No, I'm not. I'm not discussing that because Pentagon Wars is a piece of propaganda, and it's incredibly stupid. And do not base anything on that ever again. It's a fucking piece of shit made by fucking imbeciles. The fact that Kelsey Grammer's the only good person in it, because basically he's the only person who's playing someone who has some fucking common sense. Oh, well, is that from the fucking film? That's not how fucking. That's not how fucking things work. That's not a display that makes any fucking sense.
No, but it's sexy.
It's stupid, is what it is.
I wish I had that on a ship. Nah, mate, this is what's on the Type 32s.
Oh my god, that Kirov looks like it's seen slightly better days. Or more accurately, that
Oh,
it's
the Lavchenko.
yeah, that it's going to see slightly better days.
You should see the photo of it now.
She in bits.
If I can find her. No. My friend called Saturn X. He's got a photo of the Lavchenko right now.
I see.
Well, there's a few photos of sunken submarine, North Korean submarine, another submarine, or I really wish when I did all my open source intelligence stuff, I laid out my my slides like that.
Perun wanna be having ass. I'm funny. If you give PBY Catalinas to every seaplane that is smaller and less range, you've basically ganked a lot of capability from various nations. Basically because smaller seaplanes exist for smaller, and seaplanes with less range exist for a reason. Oh my god, get it off the screen.
Oof! Have a look at that.
Jesus, that's horrifying.
Have a look at that.
That's actually horrifying. Oh, Jesus. Dear God, is her steam plant fucking up?
That is the flagship of the Baltic Fleet, the Nostroshivny. Probably prior to the 2019/2022 repair period that included a propulsion system replacement.
Well, whatever they replaced it with looks like it dates from 1891.
I'm still looking, by the way. There should be some other questions in there, shouldn't there?
I hope so. Cleveland, but with 8 or 10 centerline dual-inch 5-inch 38s. What a waste of a Cleveland hull. You can fit far more 5-inch 38s on than that. You have a question?
Got it.
What would be an effective cruiser design? Effective cruiser design specifically for operating service with little to no logistics in the far-flung corners of the empires in the late 1890s to early 1900s. Oh, you're talking about the last generation of unprotected cruisers. Vessels that still have full sailing rigs, very efficient, albeit slow engines, and an ability to be blunt with you. They have no armor, none. At all. If you must know. Okay. 15 or 20 centerline 5-inch 38s on a Cleveland versus a Japanese strike force of midway size. The Cleveland dies, and it dies very quickly. I don't care how good fire control it has, or if it's even got VT shells. There are too many aircraft coming in for one ship to deal with.
Unfortunately, for the Americans in the room, the Cleveland, yes, it's good, but it's not quite Carling.
Funny. You're funny, you are.
It's true. I know, but it's true. Go on, you have to agree with me there. They're good ships, but they're not they're not the world's best.
I suppose there is that.
So, sorry, America.
Sing the song HMS Pepperpot. No idea what it is. Would the RN redesign the Astutes or build an attack sub with VLS capability to launch Tomahawks? Well, first off, the Astutes already can.
They can.
Just tube launch them. Secondly, I think I think it's highly likely that the next RN attack submarine will have some form of VLS. I'd be very surprised if it didn't.
Question is the Aussie boat going to get one?
Hard
Get some VLS.
If it's been based off of Virginia, I'd find it very surprising if they didn't.
Well, have to wait and see.
Indeed, basically, that's all we can do. Wait and see.
Oh, no.
I know what you mean. It's a bit of a weird one.
That's a good question. Does the Chinese have better technology these days? I think the best way to answer that question is yes and no. The reason for that is, like, yes, China is a meme state, but they're doing pretty well for themselves. They learn quickly. They develop even quicker. I mean, they've gone through 4 different versions of Dragon Eye in the last 10 years.
The problem they've got is that they're basically running down their capabilities.
They're going to hit a point where they can't advance their technology any further.
At least not ahead of everyone else's.
Yeah.
And also, they're beginning to feel the effects of a population crisis. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah. Woo! Finally.
It's gonna cause problems. Big ones at that.
Hmm. Thing is, though, kind of their fault.
I know, I know. But then again, they had a really unenviable choice to make. Do we either keep birth rate unregulated or have large amounts of people starving? It wasn't an enviable decision to be in. I'd argue
I
they
really
made.
thought you were going to say. Sorry, go on, you first.
I'd argue that the choice they made was the right one at the time, but it has had long-term consequences.
Hmm. With your little stutter there, it did sound like you said they would either go for big pizzas or no everyone starves. I was like, interesting. I'd go for the big pizzas, please. Although, I don't think I'd ever trust a Chinese pizza.
On that, I think we're agreed.
Anyway, moving swiftly on.
There's nothing wrong with it. It'd be like asking the Italians to make fish and chips. It'd be wrong on so many levels.
That it would be. Yes, the Type 26s are being fitted with a Mark 41 VLS system. And I believe the 83s will take a Mark 41. Do you want to add anything to that, Fleet? Or
No, I think we've made that point.
good, good, good.
What are we, James Arnold Taylor? Um,
There is talk of it. And I say talk. I believe the
I don't.
chief of the defense staff wants to bring it into force. However, the only issue is money.
Yeah, but I also want to point something out. Everyone says, "Oh, if Chiang Kai-shek had been in charge, it would have been worse." Um, Chiang Kai-shek's nationalist government was running a bit corrupt, but a stable China prior to the Sino-Japanese War. It wasn't perfect, and it definitely wasn't Western, but it was going in the right direction. And it was doing so at a pace the Chinese people could keep up with. It wasn't being rushed, or botched, or forced upon them with wild, sweeping policies that caused massive ecological damage and damage to the Chinese population. But the thing is, with Chiang Kai-shek's China, is that it will be friendly with the Western powers, so can therefore import food easily, and also get aid from Western farmers in how to set up proper farming methods that will actually result in massive crop yields without destroying their water system. Nationalist China would be better in every conceivable way that matters. It's not even close to being funny. It's just that's the way it is. You are aware of just. Okay, alright. You are aware of the complexities of a rotary cannon, right? They seem simple on the outside, but they're actually rather complex. They get more complex the bigger you go. A 6-inch rotary cannon is.
What?
He's basically asking how would a Cleveland with 4 6-inch rotary cannon do as a ship?
Shocking. Because you wouldn't get it built. I'm sorry to say it, but you won't get it built.
Yeah, the prototype cannon will be fired once and will probably explode and or break down after it's fired about 3 rounds.
What would you call this weapon? Because obviously you have Phalanx. Phalanx is a cool game.
A 6-inch
What are we calling?
6-inch rotary cannon experimental type.
See, that doesn't sound as cool as Phalanx engaging or take with Phalanx or Phalanx take. 6 inches experimental rotary engage. Like double puckle gun.
Possibly. It's hard to say, but it is mostly true.
Oh god, can you imagine if naval guns were just like puckle guns
Don't.
in World War One?
Don't. Just don't.
Okay,
Please.
all right,
I don't want to think about
we
that.
won't.
I genuinely don't want to think about that.
I'm sorry. Oh dear.
I-
What have I done?
You made me think about fucking puckle guns. I don't like thinking about puckle guns.
Makes me think about Assassin's Creed. Which one was it? Is it Black Flag or was it Rogue? They had the puckle guns.
I'm not sure.
That's the Badger. That looks like Rogue. Yes, I think I've plundered many a French warship with one of those.
Probably.
I think one of them was called the Foch as well.
Funny that.
Have you ever played Assassin's Creed Rogue?
I've never played any Assassin's Creed game.
What? Oh my god, mate. You need to. They're actually really good for historical knowledge. Well, you can learn a bit of history from them.
Possibly.
I mean, I, for one, learned about the American Civil War. No, not American Civil War. The American War of Independence. That was a very interesting subject, that was. Traitors.
Funny.
No, it was generally true. Or, can't think of anything else. But yeah, it's good. Oh, poor Chabai. Chabanenko.
You'd hope so, wouldn't you?
I mean, to be perfectly honest, the idea is good, execution not so great.
Yeah.
I mean, who
Yeah.
King George Washington?
It's the Assassin's Creed fork where George Washington became king, which they say, which I know Assassin's Creed plays off as a, oh, he's evil, he's become a dictator, without actually realizing that George was actually offered the crown at one point and said, no, we're gonna have a republic. So, yeah, just he would have been a. There's no reason to believe as a monarch he'd be any different than he was as a president. If we're going to be honest. That's the basic size of it, in essence.
Well, I learned something new tonight. Thank you.
I do occasionally know things.
Mm. I mean, I primarily know stuff that isn't really worth knowing about.
Hmm.
You have a better handle on it than I do.
Ah, lovely.
Ooh.
Let me think. I know. Fleet's thinking everyone duck and cover. Haha. Hmm. As shown in the scan of the letter above, the US. Okay, yes, you could have a World War One in a Gatling gun. This is true. However, you've just got a machine gun that fires faster. In World War One, that's all it's going to be. It's you can't really mount it in anything save a ground station, and you won't be able to for some time. If you want the basic premise of it. Yeah, basically, it seems like half the chat is Grey Ghost, sadly. Any German advance if we stop cold? No. One doesn't simply take a machine gun and automatically win. It's World War One. If the Germans encounter something they can't get past, they'll shell it, or gas it, or do literally anything else. You can't just go, aha, I have a Gatling gun, and therefore I'm going to stop every German attack that works. War is not simply down to any one weapon system. if you must know. That's an interesting weapon. That's all I'll say to that. We'll have a few more questions. And then I'm going to call it.
Fair enough. Fine by me.
Do you think the US could bring North Vietnam to its knees like in Linebacker 2 if Rolling Thunder doesn't have any restrictions, plus adding to it mining and naval blockade of Haiphong by the US? No. No. For the simple fact that Linebacker 2 didn't bring North Vietnam to its knees, nothing did. They just forced a temporary ceasefire. The Vietnam War was never going to be won, for the simple fact that the Vietnamese were determined to win it. And against an enemy that's that determined to win, the only way you can win is either by A, wiping out every single man, woman and child of that nation and leaving only an empty husk of which to take over, or B, coming to some form of agreement with them. And we know how the Vietnam War ended. With one, not the other. Giulio Cesare main gun layout, Roma speed and British cell actuary. How much more effective in actually hitting stuff would the Romas be, i.e. how many cruisers would actually be sunk? What? I don't quite follow. Shipyard, can you have a look at that, please? I can't understand what he's trying to say.
So I'm taking it he's on about the Julio Cesare's guns. So that's... Oh god, my oh, right.
Right. Nope, still don't get it.
So basically 4 triple 15s.
Right.
Oh wait,
4.
hang on. Yeah. 4 guns, 2 doubles, 2 triples.
Okay, so you're gaining 1 gun and a more. Oh, then basically the British cruisers die. Simple as, basically. Not much to it, if we're going to be honest.
Yeah.
I know, because as we stated before, the Italians have problems with shell quality. But we knew about that. The Axis just has a skill issue. You know what? That pretty much describes the Axis in a nutshell. They think they're hot shit until they're not. And even then they don't believe it.
The shells could hit the broadside of a barn from the inside.
What would happen if the Kalin, as it was called, the USSR's massive flying fortress, was actually successful and deployed? Helen K-7 was a bomber prototype. A very bad bomber prototype.
I can take this if you want me
It's
to.
not a real plane. The one with all the battleship guns is a Photoshop from the 2010s. Not a real aircraft.
Like most aircraft, if it flies, it dies. Best way forward for all aircraft.
Basically, you have to consider that everything can die, and basically accept it. If you accept that, you make yourself far more realistic in how you use your assets you've got.
I mean, to be fair, that's Phalanx's motto. If it flies, it dies. So, might as well use it and abuse it. Didn't the Stukas have a large caliber gun on it in comparison to the
37 mil. The Henschel 129s are the ones with the 75s.
How well did it do for those?
They were alright. They were good tank crackers. Because unlike most anti-tank weapons, like unguided rockets or bombs, the pilots had to actually take care and aim at their targets, and because they didn't throw up as much smoke, it was far easier to confirm kills.
Fair enough.
What is your opinion of the Novgorod monitors? Oh, you mean the circle monitors? They were an interesting idea. A very unique solution to a very unique problem. They apparently were quite good sailors once they figured out some of the hydrodynamic problems. If the US builds and successfully makes Dornier 335s in early 1942 and got them to combat in late 1943 to early 44, what might happen? Well, first off, the US is going to go, what a piece of hot garbage. The Dornier 335 is a very German solution to a very German problem, which the US just solved by developing jet aircraft and making the P-51 better. It's fast as hell. Yeah, but the US doesn't need fast aircraft. Not in the sense you're talking about. The P-51's fast enough. The Dornier 335 doesn't use any weapons that the US uses. They'd probably refit it with 50 caliber machine guns. It has 2 engines, which it doesn't need, as far as the US are concerned. And most importantly of all, it doesn't fit into any form of US doctrine. It doesn't have the range of the P-38 Lightning, so it can't fill the role the P-38 Lightning does. It's not as maneuverable as the P-51, so it can't fill the P-51's role. Basically, what you've done is you've given the US an aircraft that they don't need and probably won't use.
Slight off topic, but staying with circular ships. Did you know you can actually get the plans for the Russian royal yacht Livadia from the Royal Greenwich Museum?
Nice.
Which is the royal yacht that's based off Popov's crackhead designs. Brilliant. Love it.
It's funny, but it's true.
I know. Imagine if Popov was given a submarine and tried to design that.
I don't want to think about it, if you want my honest opinion.
Fair enough. No worries.
Do you think the CAM missile is better than the ESSM? Don't know. I'm not a modern naval man, nor am I a man who's interested too much in missiles.
Yes and no. That's what I'm saying on that one.
if you want my honest opinion, that's basically what I have to say about it.
How many more questions do you want to do, Fleet?
Um, I think I've got another one in me. I'm a bit tired today.
Yeah, that's fine, mate. No worries.
Really not feeling it today, sadly. It's just not my week. Could a hydrofoil destroy made World War Two? Yes. You need a lot of, you need a lot of horsepower, and it'd be very lightly armed, but you could. How dangerous were early steam engines to the warships they were installed on? Not very. Considering that they deliberately went with the previous generation to the latest and greatest in steam technology in order to make sure that they were overbuilt, reliable, and have very little risk of boiler explosions. They were no more dangerous to the early steam engines were no more dangerous to the warships they were built on than any other warship has ever been under threat from its own engine plant. Alright, I'll do one more. Modernize the Svetlana for World War II convoy escort. I don't know what ship it is.
Yeah. Svetlana. She's World War One, isn't she? I think she's a cruiser as well. What? That can't be the one. 1915 Svetlana class light cruiser, also known as the Krasny Krem.
Oh, well, she's already been modernized. She's already a perfectly good convoy escort for the cruiser convoy escort role. She's punchy enough. Yeah, she's punchy enough that she'll scare off anything that's um she's already modernized for convoy escort. There's no real changes you need to make her fulfill that role. It's already been done. More AA, I suppose, but the AA was included in the refit, but that's not really for convoy escort. That's just giving her more AA. A cruise.
She only got 9 single 76mm guns.
Yeah,
That's about it.
Yeah, a cruiser is a cruiser. I know it sounds weird, but there you are. Dear God, I'm actually really tired tonight. Okay. Yes, Grey Ghost, but the Russians weren't escorting those convoys. The Russians only escorted the convoys basically to make sure they didn't run aground on the way into Murmansk. They never actually saw much combat in the northern convoy areas. And I think that's my last question for the day. I think I'm a bit too frazzled tonight. I'm just not quite with it. If Shipyard wishes, he can continue, but I'm done for the night.
I mean, I can finish off your answer
Go on then.
for you.